Two gardens sit side by side on the east bank of the Mississippi River, and they could not be more different. One is deep shade and winding paths, built by out-of-work men during the worst years this country ever had. The other is bright, formal, and geometric, a private gift a man made for a wife who could no longer leave her house. One was made from hardship. The other was made from love. This walk is about how they came to share a single riverbank in St. Cloud, Minnesota. We are in St. Cloud, in Stearns County, in central Minnesota. The city straddles the Mississippi River about 65 miles upstream of Minneapolis, near the point where the river bends out of the northern forest and turns south toward the prairie. The two gardens lie together on the river's east bank, tucked below a bluff between the water and a residential neighborhood. Munsinger Gardens runs along the shaded riverside. Clemens Gardens sits just up the slope above it. Together, they cover a little over 20 acres of one of the finest public gardens in the country. The Mississippi is the reason any of this is here. This far north, the river is young, still narrow and quick, nothing like the broad channel it becomes further south. It moves along the eastern edge of the garden the whole way, close enough to hear, giving the low ground its cool, damp air and its heavy shade. Every plant in the older garden is answering that river in one way or another. Hold onto the water as we walk, because the whole story bends back to it. The Mississippi rises at Lake Itasca, only about 150 miles north and west of here, so the water passing this bank has not traveled far from its source. It carved this valley as the last glaciers melted, leaving a low floodplain terrace along the east side. That terrace, flat and moist and sheltered by the bluff behind it, is exactly the ground the old garden grows on. A garden of shade and ferns needs cool, wet soil, and the river laid it down. Nothing about this place is an accident of the river. It is a consequence of it. St. Cloud has a nickname you will see everywhere here. It is called the Granite City, and it earned the name honestly. The bedrock under this stretch of the Mississippi is some of the oldest and hardest stone in the state, and quarries have been cutting it since the 1860s. St. Cloud granite went into courthouses, banks, and monuments across the country. That stone is not just a local industry. As we will see, it is worked right into the paths and fountains of both gardens. Before there was a garden, there was a mill. Around 1880, this riverbank held the H.J. Anderson Sawmill, using the Mississippi to move and cut logs floated down from the pine country upstream. It was a working industrial site, loud and rough, the opposite of the quiet place we are walking through now. When the timber economy faded, the land along the water came open. What a garden would later borrow was the mill's greatest asset, which was direct, easy access to the river itself. In 1915, the city of St. Cloud bought this riverside ground and turned it into Riverside Park. That is the moment the land changed careers, from industry to public leisure, and it has never looked back. For its first years, it was a simple riverside park, lawns and trees and a place to walk by the water. The garden that would make it famous did not exist yet. It took one particular man and one particular disaster to bring it into being. The man was Joseph Munsinger, the first park superintendent the city ever had. By every account, he loved flowers, and he pushed the young parks department to build its first greenhouse right here on the riverbank. He was a visionary in a practical way, the kind of civic gardener who could look at a plain riverside lawn and see beds, paths, and blooms. This shaded garden is, at its root, one man's enthusiasm made permanent. When you hear the name Munsinger, picture a superintendent who simply could not stop planting. That first greenhouse went up in 1938, and it became the engine of the whole garden. A greenhouse lets you start tender plants early and carry them through a brutal Minnesota winter, which is the only way a display garden this far north can work. The original glass house is gone now, refurbished and expanded decades later, but the idea it stood for survived. Everything blooming along these paths was raised under glass before it was ever set in the ground. In a northern garden, the greenhouse is not a luxury, it is the foundation. Now the disaster. The garden as we know it was built during the Great Depression, in the depths of the 1930s, when a third of the country was out of work. The federal government answered with relief programs that paid the unemployed to build public things, chiefly the Works Progress Administration and the Civilian Conservation Corps. In St. Cloud, that labor was pointed straight at this riverbank. Men who could not find any other work spent their days here, shaping a garden out of the low ground by the river. The beauty around us is, quite literally, the shape of hard times. Look down at the path you are on. Those rock-lined edges were laid by WPA hands in the late 1930s, stone by stone. The same crews planted the trees, cut the winding flower beds, and built the low walls that hold this garden together. It was slow, deliberate, handmade work, and it has lasted the better part of a century. When people say relief programs left nothing behind, walk them through here. The proof is under your feet, and it still holds the line of every path. The same hands built the lily pond and its rock fountain, and they remain the quiet heart of the garden. A still sheet of water sits in the shade, ringed by stone, with water lilies open flat on the surface and a low fountain breaking the quiet. It is a deliberately calm, almost secretive space, the kind of thing you come upon rather than see coming. Nothing about it shouts. That restraint is exactly the point, and it is why people have loved this pond for generations. By the late 1930s, the flower part of Riverside Park had become something special, and the city decided it deserved its own name. In 1938, it was named Munsinger Gardens, after the superintendent whose greenhouse and vision had started it. That is a rare honor, to have a public garden carry your name while the work is still fresh. From that point on, this was no longer just a corner of a riverside park. It was Munsinger Gardens, a destination in its own right. The signature of Munsinger Gardens is its ceiling of tall pines. Towering evergreens close overhead and throw the whole garden into deep, cool shade, so that even on a hot summer afternoon it feels 10 degrees cooler down here by the water. That shade is what makes this garden distinct. Most flower gardens chase full sun, but this one leans the other way, into the dim green light beneath big trees. It is a woodland garden pretending to be a formal one, and the pines are the reason. Because of that shade, the planting here is informal and soft. The paths wander rather than run straight, following the lay of the land instead of fighting it. Beds spill over their stone edges, and the whole design invites you to slow down and wind through rather than march across. There is no grand axis, no single view meant to stop you. It is a garden of small discoveries, one turn at a time, which is precisely what a shaded riverbank wants to be. Fill in the picture at ground level. Ferns unfurl in the damp, hostas spread their broad leaves in the low light, and shade-loving flowers pick up the corners the sun never reaches. These are the plants that thrive where most garden favorites would sulk, and the WPA designers built the whole lower garden around them. The cool river air and the pine shade let this palette flourish. It is a very particular kind of beauty, quiet and green and unhurried, and it belongs entirely to the shade. Now we leave the shade and climb. The ground rises away from the river, the pines thin out, and the light comes flooding in. In just a short walk uphill, the whole character of the place is about to change completely. We are crossing from one garden into another, and from one era into another, from the 1930s to the 1990s. Everything soft and shaded is behind us. Everything bright and formal is ahead. Step out of the trees and the world turns geometric. Straight brick paths, clipped edges, fountains on a central line, iron fences and stone urns, all of it laid out in crisp symmetry under open sky. This is Clemens Gardens, and it is a deliberate opposite of the woodland below. Where Munsinger wanders, Clemens marches. Where one is a happy accident of relief labor, the other is a single, focused, very private vision. And behind that vision is a love story. The gardens are named for Bill and Virginia Clemens, a St. Cloud couple who paid to build them. William Clemens was a local businessman, and beginning in the 1980s, he funded a series of formal gardens on the slope above Munsinger, working with the city's nursery staff to bring them to life. In 1990, the city named the whole formal collection Clemens Gardens in the couple's honor. Reportedly, the family gave around $500,000 toward the work. It was one of the most generous gifts this city had ever received, and its reason was deeply personal. Virginia Clemens had multiple sclerosis. As the disease advanced, she could no longer travel, and eventually she could not easily leave home. So her husband did something extraordinary. He built her a garden she could see. The formal gardens were placed and designed so that Virginia could look out and enjoy their beauty from her window. Most men, it has been said, give their wives flowers. Bill Clemens gave his wife and his whole city a garden. Here is the part that makes it remarkable. This was built as one woman's view, and then it was given to everyone. The Clemens family handed the gardens to the city of St. Cloud, so that a private act of devotion became a public park open to all, free of charge. Virginia Clemens died in 1998, but the garden she inspired kept growing and opening to the public. What began at a single window now welcomes visitors from all over the world. That turn from private to public is the whole spirit of this place. The oldest piece of Clemens dates to 1986, and it is called simply the formal garden. It set the template for everything that followed, a symmetrical bed of flowers arranged around a central fountain in the classic European manner. The design language here is Old World, drawn from the great formal gardens of Europe, but the plants are thoroughly American and thoroughly hardy. That blend, a classical frame filled with New World flowers, runs through the entire collection. It is European bones with a Minnesota heart. Clemens is not one garden but 6, arranged as a set of outdoor rooms, each with its own character. There is the formal garden, the rose garden, the white garden, the perennial garden, the Treillage garden, and the rest area, and you move between them like moving through the rooms of a house. Each has its own fountain, its own color scheme, and its own mood. It is a small collection you can walk in an afternoon, yet dense enough to reward hours. Let us step through the ones that stand out. The Virginia Clemens Rose Garden opened in 1990, and it carries her name directly. It holds around 1,100 roses, a deep planting of hybrid teas, floribundas, grandifloras, shrub roses, and tree roses, all chosen to survive Minnesota winters. Growing roses this far north is genuinely hard, so a garden of this size is a real achievement, not just a pretty one. In full bloom, it is a wall of color and scent. Of all the rooms in Clemens, this is the one that carries her name into the future. The most quietly famous room is the White Garden, added in 1994. Every flower in it is white, an entire garden drained of color on purpose, which sounds austere and is in fact luminous. It was inspired by the celebrated White Garden at Sissinghurst Castle in England, one of the most imitated garden designs in the world. White flowers glow at dusk and in shade in a way brighter colors never do, so the room seems to hold the light after the sun has moved on. It is restraint used as a kind of drama. The perennial garden is built around a single striking object. At its center stands a 12-foot-tall cast iron fountain, a replica of a fountain design from before the American Civil War, ringed by beds of hardy perennials that return on their own each year. The dark, ornate ironwork against the flowers is pure 19th-century romance, deliberately old-fashioned. Perennials are the patient backbone of any northern garden, coming back stronger season after season. This room is the one that rewards you for visiting again and again over the years. The grandest structure in the gardens is the Treillage. It is a long arbor of white trellis work, some 104 feet from end to end, with a central dome rising about 24 feet into the air. A fountain plays beneath that dome, and 4 single-color gardens are arranged around it. Treillage is simply the old French word for ornamental trellis, and walking its length is the closest thing here to walking a garden gallery. It is architecture made of lattice and climbing plants, and it anchors the whole formal collection. The most spectacular water feature sits in the rest area, and it was dedicated in 1999. It is the Renaissance Fountain, a tiered stone fountain crowned with sculpted cranes, standing about 24 feet tall. That height makes it one of the tallest outdoor fountains in the entire state of Minnesota. Set at the top of the formal gardens, it is the exclamation point at the end of the whole design. Water falling 24 feet through stone is a sound you feel before you see it. Remember the Granite City. Here in Clemens, the paths are laid in formal red brick, outlined and bordered with local granite, so the stone that built the town also frames its finest garden. Add the ironwork fences, the stone urns and the carved benches, and every hard surface has been chosen with the same care as the plants. This is a garden where the paving matters as much as the flowers. In St. Cloud, it could hardly be otherwise because the ground itself is famous. Stand between them and the contrast is the whole point. Below, Munsinger, shaded and informal and handmade in hard times by men who needed work. Above, Clemens, sunlit and formal and given freely in good times by a man who loved his wife. One grew out of necessity, the other out of devotion, and yet they sit on the same riverbank and belong together completely. Depression relief and private philanthropy, 60 years apart, somehow finish the same thought. Few places tell 2 such different American stories in one short walk. What ties it all together is that both gardens are, and always have been, free and open to everyone. There is no gate and no ticket, spring through fall, from early morning to late at night. A superintendent's passion, a nation's relief labor, and a husband's gift have all ended up in the same place, held in common by the public. That is the rarest thing here, rarer than the roses or the fountains. Beauty on this scale, given to a whole city and asking nothing in return. So we leave the way we came, down through the pines to the river. Behind us stand 2 gardens that should never have belonged together and somehow do, one born of hardship and one born of love, sharing a single bank of the young Mississippi. Come in spring for the tulips, in summer for the roses, in the fall for the color, but come. Places like this are made by a few determined people and then kept by everyone who visits. Thank you for watching. Follow for more of the trails of the world.